the great seed sowing has arrived. It is March, it is a beautiful day, and it is also the busiest seed sowing month. So we gotta get started. We have a beautiful border of established roseas. I think we have about 4 or 5 shrubs. I have no idea what variety or what colors, but I think it would still be fun to create a beautiful mixed border and add some perennials, some annuals, some grasses, and really make it the show-stopping moment of the garden. So I already went through my seed box and selected a couple of seeds to sow for that project, for other areas of the garden that we're going to develop, and also for the vegetable garden. Granted, right now it's only one tiny raised bed, but I have plans to add at least 2 more. So that will be a really fun project also. So I want to take you through the list of seeds, then we'll go sow them. And I also want to show you some perennials that I got, and we also need to repot these. So let's start with the seed sowing list. The first variety that I want to sow is an Achillea called Miss Jekyll. It's a beautiful deep blue color. I really love the structure of the bloom. It's going to be perfect for that mid layer in the border. I also have another Nigella variety called African Bride. It has the loveliest white color. Just love that mix. These grow 80 centimeters tall, so again, good for that mid layer. Next, I have some seeds from Holland. You probably know by now that last year we took the most wonderful trip to the coconut. And whilst we were there, of course, there was seed shopping. So I got 2 varieties of poppy, a mix called Mother of Pearl and another variety called Bridal Silk. So we're gonna try out. I know sometimes poppies require a period of cold in order to germinate better. So let's see what we get to. Still for my rose border, I want to start some Cleome. It's also called spider plant. Produces those clusters of blooms that are absolutely lovely for late color. These are going to flower from June all the way to the first frost, so that's really great for that late flowering season. They grow 80 to 120 centimeters, so definitely something for the back of the border. Next, I want to try Amaranthus Velvet curtain. This is going to be a beautiful foliage plant, and again, one of those bold accents in a border. Again, this flowers later in the season from June to October. And if you've seen the dahlia haul, I have a lot of dahlias in this shade, more maroons and reds and burnt oranges, which I think are going to complement this color perfectly. Last year, one of my favorite things that I grew from seed was Nicotiana lime green. One, it was absolutely easy and will make it on my easy annuals to grow seed list forever on from now on. I started them in January, which I think was a little bit early, but they flowered within the same growing season, which is not always a given. Lime green was perfect against some darker foliage. So I collected some seeds and I'm going to start them again this year. They were just perfection. We can't talk about seed sowing and rose border without going the Cosmo route. I have a couple of varieties because Cosmos are absolutely amazing. Again, that later summer interest. They are a cut and come again flowers, so the more you harvest the flowers, the more you get. So that's absolutely lovely. So I'm going to start a few this year. I'm going to go for Cosmo Lemonade, Kiiro. I think those 2 together are going to be perfect. I'm also going to start a dwarf mix. Again, you can't go wrong with pinks and whites. It's just a lovely color. And we're also going to try Rosetta. They have some stripes on the petal, which I think is unusual, so it's going to be absolutely lovely. If you start Cosmos, be warned, slugs absolutely love those seedlings, so extra protection will be required. The video was getting pretty long, so I had to cut back on the number of seeds that I showed you, but I did so many more. I am only aiming for a couple of plants per variety, so I think that's not going to be overwhelming for the garden. It actually took me 2 days to do everything. And I actually ran out of compost for my dwarf beans, but that's okay, they can wait a little bit longer. But otherwise, stay tuned, I'll probably do a seedling update very soon for you. I also wanted to show you real quick some perennials that I picked up at a local garden center. Can I resist those little plant pots? Possibly not. much of film. Well, I'm gonna stop there now. I won't have time to grow everything from seed, and it's really good to get a head start on this season. It's also pretty cost efficient to buy perennial plants when they're in those small containers, especially early in the season, because they'll have time to grow and to flower by the end of the season. I picked up more Erigeron. I love that plant. I had it in our previous garden. Really sad to let it go, but I picked up, I think, 3 of these. They're going to be great at the front of the border or even in containers. Then I picked up some Nepeta or catmint. This is a variety called mussini, and I picked this up for the cats because they love it and they love nibbling on it and just, you know, going in it and just like smelling it and eating it. But also it produces really wonderful purple blooms and flowers for a really long time, so that would also be a great addition in the flower border. I also picked up a Scabiosa called Red Knight. It has a beautiful deep burgundy color. This is going to become very bushy and grow about 60 to 70 centimeters tall, so I thought this would be a great filler for mixed rose border. I have 5 plants of that because I saw it dotted throughout the border. That would be really lovely. I also picked up some Eryngium because they are the star of the show in the later months. We can leave up the seed heads for a sculptural look throughout winter. The last perennial that I picked up is 3 plants of Achillea Colorado. It is a mix of different colors. It goes through like reds and purples and pinks and more like magentas. So again, we'll go really well with everything that I've picked up today. I have 3 plants, and again, we'll dot that along the border. I might also pick up some more perennials. There's a few more things on my list and some more shrubs for a border, but I think we'll do another video on that so I can show you the layout. We can start working on the border and then planting, so stay tuned for that. Before starting on the seed sowing, I want to repot quickly the perennials that I just showed you because a lot of them have roots poking out at the bottom of the containers, so we're going to upgrade them. Something that's a little bit bigger, gives us a bit of time before we're ready to replant. So I'm just checking whether I have 1 or more plants. Here it looks like we only have 1 Scabiosa. One tip I have for you when plant shopping is really pay attention to the amount of plants per container. Sometimes you can get a much better deal than you're thinking. For example, here, a lot of those small containers actually had several plants in them. So I just divided them and repotted each individual plant in its own container. And that can really help you stretch your budget if you pick carefully. Oh, I'm putting some coffee everywhere. Look at that. I mean, I could even cut further, to be honest. This looks like this could be divided again, but already 2 really good, healthy plants. Can you see Sushi hiding in the flowers? She's hunting. I'm pretty happy with that. My 5 Scabiosa became 7. My Eryngium, I had 3 plants, they became 5. Same for the Achillea, I doubled. Sometimes you get several perennials that are sown, that are planted, and there's no time for thinning, so really good bargain. I'm just gonna pop a little bit of multi-purpose fertilizer on those and then water. And then as soon as the border is cleared up and I've made a planting plan, we'll be placing those in. This is a great thing to do when you're potting on your seedlings because compost only has nutrients for a specific amount of time, usually a couple of weeks, and the plant needs to keep growing so that it can produce flowers. We now have our first plucked cells of 24 cell ready to go with a mix of vermiculite, of sifted compost, and then I also moisten the seed mix. Now we pull out the seeds, we label, and we sow. Look at that, they're huge. All right, I'm gonna keep watering the rest of my seeds and then probably transfer them to the terrace where they can get some sun. I'm gonna check on them several times a day, probably in the morning and in the evening to make sure that they're still moist enough. And then as soon as the first growth emerges, it's time to remove the lid. And then the waiting game begins until we get some flowers. We'll probably have to transplant a few of these. So we'll check on these in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed seed sowing with me, and I'll see you next week. Bye! Ended up popping a few flats here on this table, on that little guy as well, and the potting table also became a table. So wish me fast germination.